Well, hello. With me tonight is Iain Dale. Iain is a Conservative blogger and co-founder of the internet TV station 18 Doughty Street, and Dolly Draper, a former New Labour advisor who found himself at the centre of a row over political lobbying. Derek left the Westminster hothouse to become a privately practising psychotherapist and a columnist for the Mail on the Sunday. A very good evening to you too. OK, this is all about your texts and your emails, your questions following on from the discussion on Question Time. It's up to you to say what you think and what you want our two guests to talk about. Here's a quick taste. Roger from Colchester says, at least Blair was good at spin. Well, that's your subject.
Well, people are attacking Gordon Brown. You know, the guy considered having an election, which I think it was his sort of duty to do. I think there's serious questions about whether it's right to have a mandate now, whether you need to set out your vision and deliver, or whether you should be making your promises and seeing if they get backed by people first. But, you know, the truth is, nobody outside the Westminster bubble and real political anoraks, no offence to the emailer, cares now about this question. You know, it wasn't great for Gordon. He admitted himself he hadn't had a great weekend, but the great British public are bothered about schools, hospitals and things like that.
All right, well,
not a load of rubbish about an election and spin.
Well, we'll see what our section of the public are interested in with all the messages. Let's first of all quickly just get a little bit of what was said on Question Time itself. First question, it was, is imitation the sincerest form of flattery? Now, the question was raised at the end of a week, of course, when the government was accused of stealing the Conservatives' policies on everything from inheritance tax to airline duties. Well, Harriet Harman saw nothing wrong with a little consensus among the parties.
I don't think he should be damaged, because I think that people should have trust and confidence in somebody who cares about the future of this country, who's committed to ensuring that people become better off, that the economy is stable, that our schools are running well and our hospitals are running well and people have jobs to go to and they can pay their mortgages. And that is what I think that he is determined to do. So I've got confidence, and I'm sure that people will see that turn out.
Okay. I mean, what's most bizarre about Brown is he talks about, he sat down in this rather patsy interview from Andrew Marr, I have a vision, right? The truth about the matter is he let it be known he wasn't going to go to the country exactly 90 minutes after the News of the World rang him and told them their poll says you're going to be slaughtered in the marginals. Had nothing to do with that vision, all that. Nothing to do with that. Had everything to do with his own neck. That's what it had to do with, not vision.
Right, well, there we are. That actually wasn't the first subject, but it was certainly one of them, and with Kelvin Mackenzie getting everybody going there as well. At least he livened things up, didn't he? Well, what do you make of this, then, Iain? I mean, there's been a lot of criticism here for the Conservatives as well as Labour.
In what way? I mean, how have the Conservatives been criticised?
Well, it certainly started up, which led to the whole election being called back.
Well, I mean, Gordon Brown didn't call the election for one simple reason, that, as Kelvin Mackenzie said, he heard about this News of the Word poll in the marginals, 44% to the Conservatives, 38% to Labour. Easy decision to make. He'd led his troops up to the top of the hill and marched them down again. You know, Derek, as well as I do, that he wanted to call the election in early September. He didn't, because he thought he might be criticised for sort of ruining the party conferences. And you talked about the inheritance tax announcement at the beginning. Do you seriously think that Alistair Darling would have said anything about inheritance tax had George Osborne not made that announcement the week before? It wasn't even on the political agenda. All right, but David from Surbiton says, why are the Tories complaining? He's doing what they want. Well, I think the Tories have got out of jail. I mean, it's the most fantastic achievement in modern political history to make Gordon Brown not call an election, because I think probably the Conservatives would have lost that election. And for anyone to really seriously believe that Gordon Brown was asked if you had seen that you would have got a majority of 100, wouldn't you still have called the election? He said no. I mean, that really does make the public, that he takes the public for fools.
Well, in a time warp here, Right? This is not last week, right? There was an issue about whether there should be an election or not. Gordon Brown's dealt with that, and he's moving on. You know, the idea that somehow we should be happy...
Well, hang on, our viewers are not moving on. Bruce Haswell from London says Gordon Brown insists it's time for change, a change in public services, vision, foreign policy, etc. If it's all change, shouldn't the public have the choice through an election to accept this change?
Well, they will have the choice, but, you know...
Well, when? 2 years?
In 2 years'
Not
time.
Not next year, is it?
Well,
2009?
Well, the truth is, it was always a finely judged question whether there should be an election now or an election later. You heard on Question Time Chuka say that, you know, we are a parliamentary democracy, people elected the Labour Party, other people think you should have a chance to elect the top man. My point is that, you know, this is a question for last week. The fact is, people now want to look at what the parties are offering. They want Gordon Brown to set out this vision that he's talking about. They want to see the Conservative plans probed very rigorously in Parliament for the next 2 years.
Can we address this question of vision? Because normally, if a politician says, I'm in charge, it usually means they're not in charge. And when they talk about, I want to set out my vision, it usually means they have got a vision to set out. We've had 10 years of knowing what Gordon Brown's vision is. I think everybody knows what he wants to do, apart from him, because there are no new policies. This Alistair Darling statement contains no policies
Iain
at all.
Young from Rawtenstall. I will keep interrupting you, but I know it's difficult. But we've got to get the viewers' points in. He says, we elect governments, not prime ministers. Gordon Brown has a mandate to govern this country, and govern he shall do.
Well, that would be correct if Tony Blair hadn't said that he was going to serve a full term.
Cameron, the same email from Iain Young says Cameron is a fake and an opportunist, and I wouldn't trust him to run my corner shop, never mind the country.
Well, I think worth responding to, is it?
Well, au contraire, I think that's probably tapping into what a lot of people, even after the flashness of the last week from the Conservatives, actually see in David Cameron, which is, you know, I'll tell you the interesting fact about these tax cuts. You can have your tax cut on stamp duty and inheritance tax. If mortgage rates go up by 1%, it wipes out any benefit people will get from those tax cuts.
Which they have done 2% over the last year.
The last time David Cameron was in the Treasury as an advisor, a top advisor to Norman Lamont, interest rates were 15%.
He was 25.
Now the question you have to ask is, are people going to want to risk their living standards, their jobs and their mortgages to Billy Bunter and his friend? I doubt it very much.
This is the new politics that Gordon Brown talks about. I mean, David Cameron has had the most successful 2 weeks for the Conservative Party since 1992. He's turned round the Conservative Party fortunes. At the conference, he made that speech, which few other politicians could have done. It impressed the country. Just accept it, Derek.
We know he's smooth, we know he's flash. The issue is, hand on your heart, or more importantly, hand on your wallet, do you really trust George Osborne and David Cameron with the nation's finances?
Absolutely, I do. I trust them far better than I would trust Gordon Brown, who has put taxes up so much over the last 10 years. Today we get in the newspapers £2,500. Ordinary families, I hate using that word ordinary because nobody's ordinary in this country, but normal families are going to have to pay an extra £2,500 because of Alistair Darling and Gordon Brown's tax increases.
OK, well, let's have another clip from, or a couple of clips from Question Time. In uniting the Conservative Party, has Gordon Brown achieved what David Cameron couldn't? It was the question put up, one of the questions put up for discussion in a week, of course, when the Tories did go from a dire position in the polls, maybe a long week, to a lead which had many Labour MPs rattled. Well, Kelvin Mackenzie admitted that his doubts about David Cameron's leadership, or that he had them, but thought the party was back on track.
I think, whose idea was it, yours or mine? I mean, I can't see what the point of that sort of discussion is. The question is it a good idea? Is it fair? Does it help people get on with their lives and be better off? So I think that's what the Chancellor's statement should be judged by. And I mean, we had the extraordinary example today in the House of Commons of Theresa May, who's Minister for Women and the Tory shadow, she shadows me as Minister for Women, her saying equal pay was her idea and I was copying her. And I thought that this has become a very arid debate. The point is there are some good things we should be pursuing, and if people all agree with them, then that's no bad thing.
Don't believe that the Labour and Tory party are not, however, going often to be exactly on the same side, whatever the issue. Iraq war, same side. Nuclear weapons, same side. Nuclear power, same side. Tuition fees, same side. keeping income tax at the same level rather than dropping it to 16p in the pound, same side. So, yes, they can imitate each other, but often, nowadays, there are two big parties who will say the same thing, and if you want something different, you have to go elsewhere.